film was Scars of Dracula, and I was under contract to Harry Saltzman at the time, and he offered me a film that included taking my clothes off, which I didn't want to do. So he said, well, what about doing a Hammer horror? And he respected and admired the Hammer horror films. This is the man who started the whole thing of the James Bond films. And I went off and did Scars of Dracula and thoroughly enjoyed myself. The cast was superb. Christopher Lee came back to be Dracula. I mean, who else could be Dracula? Tall and dark and slim and menacing. Dennis Waterman, blonde and definitely beginning on his crest of a wave. There was Patrick Troughton, Doctor Who, ex-Doctor who was to be Clove, who was to be the sort of servant and horrible, and just wonderful actors all the way through. And I thought, I can learn, I can have fun, and it would be great.
He is evil. He is the embodiment of all that is evil. He is the very devil himself.
Oh, Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee tried to take himself terribly seriously, especially when it came to Dracula, because I think he'd had enough of Dracula by the time I came to do the Scars of Dracula, and he was tired of the whole genre, I think, really. But he kept himself tall. He kept himself being slightly pompous, slightly apart. But at Elstree Studios, at the time that we were doing our film, my mother, Dinah Sheridan, was completing The Railway Children, and Mother and I got on like naughty school children, and we met up one lunchtime, and Christopher just happened to sort of be around while Mother and I were ever so slightly misbehaving. And he came and I introduced him to Mama, and all of a sudden I didn't exist. I blended into the background. These two, because Christopher could be quite flirtatious. Mind you, so could my mother. And the two of them just enjoyed each other's company for a while, which was lovely, absolutely lovely to see, even though I wasn't included. I forgave them.
Enter Dracula's stronghold at your peril.
It may have been the end of a period of Gothic Hammer, but there's something that transcends time with Hammer, that if it's Gothic, fair enough. If it's Sherlock Holmes, it's Victorian. There are certain things which, in your mind, are set in a period, and however people change them, you can't take that out of your mind. And I don't think Hammer ever wanted to, really. They moved on, but I think still it's called Gothic horror, not because of the way it looks or because of the period, but because of the way it feels. To move from the Scars of Dracula to the Flesh and Blood show, the whole thing was just totally different. One seemed to be a family, a group, a team, definitely, for the Hammer horror. People who had worked together before, mainly crew, script, directors, editors. The Flesh and Blood show was definitely a sort of independent feel to it, and although it was still basically a horror film, it was very different, very much more blatant. I think gratuitous nakedness, although Scars of Dracula was lambasted at the time for having too much gore, too much blood and horror. The Flesh and Blood show seemed to revel in it, but for no artistic or poetic, if you will, reason to it. Certainly the nakedness, both of them had nakedness in them, but then it was the end of the 60s. What can you say? The fact that I didn't want to include myself in it is my choice. But those were films that did it. And the audience seemed to want it, demand it, and enjoy it. So who does one make the films for? The audience. I have lovely memories of working with Ray Brooks. Ray Brooks has a sort of laid-back sense of humour. He's also a consummate professional, and the most wonderful thing from a co-actor's point of view is that, sorry about the noise around here, but it's an ongoing place. He listens to what you say, and sometimes in a script you can change a verb or an adverb, and if your fellow actor isn't listening, they don't repeat the adverb that you should have repeated. Ray Brooks always was a listening actor. He was a sharing actor, and that, I think, was proved in lots of his films, that he was a good actor. I don't think he was celebrated as much as he should have been, truthfully. For the future, I've just completed something that scared me to pieces, but something I felt I had to do, a play. And I've only done 3 plays before, and that was over 40 years before. But I was with the most wonderful group of people, and in Stoke we did an Agatha Christie play called The Hollow, and I'm glad to say that it was very well received, and I actually enjoyed it. I actually remembered the lines, had a wonderful time with everybody in the play. Guy Siner from Allo Allo played my husband, and as I said, everybody to do with it was just so wonderful. And I've been offered another play, but I'm trying to complete a book of poems that I've written that are very important to me, because I don't see myself writing an autobiography, but I do seem to have got a lot of my self, my life, my angst, my loves out in poetry rather than out in just the written word. So I'm looking forward.